Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The single best idea on a very odd day. It's odd when the UN meetings are happening in New York. All sorts of things going on. Great to see Francine Lacroix in studio off of her important interview with the leadership of Finland. Miles Miller stopping by as well, looking at the chaos, constructive chaos within Midtown Manhattan. But on this day, we did have to look still at equities, bonds, currencies, commodities. That's the world of Lisa Shalett at Morgan Stanley, driving Morgan Stanley wealth. She looked out to next year.
I will, be very clear. Our chief U.S. equity strategist, Mike Wilson, believes that we are going to see this positive operating leverage in 2026 and that those numbers are secure. He and I disagree on this point. And I believe that the margins that are baked into the earnings estimates next year, which call for 14% year-over-year growth, which by our guesstimates are about 140 basis points of expansion from where we are going to be really hard to deliver, especially when the full effects of tariffs play through. Somebody's paying these tariffs. Yep. And if it's not the consumer, and the U.S. consumer has been very clear that they're willing to push back and reallocate their spending away from higher prices, I think we're going to see some companies in some sectors having to admit that they're absorbing it.
Lisa Shalett, Morgan Stanley, what you heard there is a hallmark of Morgan Stanley research. For decades, they have really embraced an argument within research, a constructive discussion where people are allowed to disagree collegially. I think collegially, maybe sometimes less collegially as well. Darren Shames with us. He's with Nomura. Talking to clients, much more on the sales side than the strategy side. And he was absolutely brilliant today on how foreign investors perceive the United States. Let's listen.
I think there's a lot of scenario analysis right now about what the different outcomes could be for certain situations. Obviously, the Lisa Cook story and how that plays out in front of the Supreme Court is a major focal point, probably even more so than Jerome Powell's successor next year.
Interesting. Okay.
Interesting. Do you think Lisa Cook is a bigger deal than the replacement?
I think for investors, if you look at her being potentially sidelined and the inability to participate in the Fed at some point going forward, if the Supreme Court was to rule in that direction, I think that means it's a relatively low bar for that to happen to other Fed governors.
Darren Shames with Nomura, just back from Asia, real treatment there of the foreign perception. Liz Ann Saunders out with a great chart today. I think I saw it out on Twitter of the percent U.S. ownership by foreign investors. It's just a steady climb over the last 15 years. We're a podcast run on Spotify and Apple as well on YouTube podcasts. It's single best idea.